I was a young man when I had the opportunity to visit Guatemala. I was asked to lead a work crew that was to paint a medical clinic. On arriving, I was given the chance to spend a couple of days with a family. I asked to go as far into the mountains as possible, and so I traveled by foot up to a mountain village. After introductions and a light lunch, I needed to use the facilities, and there, just off the main road, was a small, thatch-covered open-air toilet. It was built for the Guatemalan mountain people, not a 6'4" gringo like me. I thought it would be smart to demonstrate some wisdom by sitting down, thereby becoming less conspicuous, something a tall person tends to prefer. Yet even then, my white face shone above the wall like a spotlight to all passing by. Later that afternoon, as I walked into the nearby village, everyone was greeting me and inviting me to sit with them. I couldn't understand why so many people knew who I was in such a short amount of time. That evening, as we sat down to dinner with my host, he told us that I was the famous gringo that had been seen using the baño. They were having a good time telling their neighbors and enjoying a hearty laugh about it all, as I did. I can't imagine what their vantage point brought to mind, but it had to be humorous. That moment opened the door to me. I was accepted and for some reason trusted. The next morning, I walked into the town center for some sweetbread, a lightly sweetened bread roll that is a common side to a cup of coffee in the mountains of Guatemala. On my walk, I noticed an elderly woman carrying a bundle of sticks, wrapped in what looked like a large shawl slung over her shoulder. Noticeably, it was a burden on her body. Yet she walked on in full stride, as if on a mission. Intrigued, I must have been curious because I forgot about my sweetbread, and from a distance I followed her movements. She went door to door, selling her sticks and small broken pieces of wood to the villagers. I assumed this was for kindling to start cooking fires. She would swing the bundle from her shoulder, hand a few pieces to the buyer, and the buyer would place a few coins in her hand, where she then placed the coins in a pocket of her brightly colored wool coat. It was cool in the mountains. Later at the home of my host, I asked about her. Esperanza, he said, a widow in a mountain shack further up. She comes down every day with her bundle to earn some morsels that supply her basic needs. Something caught my heart that day. Having grown up in a Christian home, I recalled reading a verse about how it is up to us to care for the widows in our lives. In fact, it talks about not forgetting them. That day never left me, where I came face to face with a personal desire. Often the forgotten ones, widows and single mothers, struggle with the real fear of losing their homes or the proper upkeep of their homes. I wanted to find a way to supply for this need and remove the fear and bring an increased blessing. Karis Fund is focused on creating safe and secure housing for widows and single mothers. What solidified this desire was what I discovered from Esperanza. As she came to the end of her bundle that morning, I figured she would take the direct route to the bread shop for her morning meal. But as I followed, she wound her way through the back streets away from the town center. There, in the middle of the street, were a handful of children. Malnutrition had set in. They were dirty, some stripped of clothes completely. Their bodies lacking the basic regard the majority of us think nothing of. Rushing to her side, she took a few coins from her pocket and tenderly placed what couldn't have been more than a few pennies into their hands. It was the widow's mite, the small bit that she so graciously, generously, and lovingly gave each morning. My heart was sealed. The quiet, often forgotten widows or single mothers are forever on my radar and have become the purpose of the Karis Fund.